Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial, and this is the 2023 Astrology Marathon with some of the top astrologers from around the world who are contributing free information they've prepared. Today, I'm speaking with Carien. Hello, Carien.
Hi Lada. Hi, everyone.
I'm always very excited to have you on because you're so thorough. You're so in depth and you're covering all 12 signs today. It will be a long video. We will timestamp it for each of the 12 signs. Thank you for putting so much of your time. And today, Carien is talking about the 12 signs and careers for the 12 signs in 2023 and money. So I'm very excited about this topic. Also, if you'd like a personal reading with Carien, each one of our readers is making an offering from the release of the video for the next 2-3 weeks. And Carien's offering is a transit reading for 2023, which will be on a very nice discount, and a reading about, what was it? About career and money.
Careers and your talents, if you want to look for your career path.
And Carien is extremely talented, as you will see from what she's prepared for us. A thorough, perfect. I mean,
I hope.
So the stage is yours.
Thank you. So let me just share the screen. Oh, I need permission.
Yes. Sorry. Oops. Here, they've changed Zoom. It used to be normal to share. Make co-host. There you go.
Okay. Okay, can you see the screen?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So before we start, I just like to quick introduction how I read the chart and also how you can utilize this reading. I use tropical zodiac and whole sign house system, and I apply Vedic astrology's technique in all my readings. So please don't use any unequal house system for this reading. And traditionally, people use sidereal zodiac for Vedic astrology, but Ernst Wilhelm, if you're interested in astrology, you probably heard of him. He stopped using sidereal zodiac for Vedic astrology because he has tested like tropical zodiacs and sidereal zodiac with all the Vedic techniques. And tropical zodiac trumps every time. So that's why he stopped using sidereal for Vedic astrology, I think since 2005, if I remember correctly. But at least like 10 years ago, he stopped using tropical.
And he learned also Sanskrit, so he can translate directly the ancient Sanskrit astrology books. And it turns out they were using tropical zodiac with the techniques, with the Vedic techniques, way past.
Yeah.
Only the constellations, the lunar mansions was sidereal, but not the 12 signs.
Yeah, so no worries. No, thank you for adding this information. But just to lay out the foundation, this is what I learned from him. And also this is how I do my readings. And I also apply like planetary dristis, like eyesight in my readings. But in this video, because it's going to be very long, so I will only mention that the aspects, the dristi, eyesight, that's related to today's topic, which is career and money. So not every dristi, not every eyesight of the planets will be mentioned. So Jupiter and Saturn, these are the two planets that I'm going to look at mainly for today. And Jupiter will be in Aries from 21st of December this month, and it will stay in Aries until 16th of May. And then it will transit into Taurus from 17th of May, and it will stay in Taurus for a year. So until 25th of May in 2024. And Saturn will change sign into Pisces in 7th of March. And then it will stay there for almost 3 years. But Saturn will go into Aries just briefly and then come back to Pisces. So almost 3 years time. So these are the three major events that I looked at for this video particularly. And the reading is good if you can look at from your rising sign as well as your moon sign, because in Vedic astrology, apart from the birth charts, they also have this moon chart. So it means that we read everything from the moon's placements. So your moon sign becomes like your first house, your ascendant, and then you can look at the transits from the moon. And there's a specific term for that. It's called Gochara in Vedic astrology. And of course, you can also turn your charts and read your natal chart from the moon, especially if you're over 50 years old, because all the planets will mature at the age of 50. Like Rahu matures at age of 42 and Ketu matures at the age of 48. So if you read
this to work, just wanted to ask you, have you tried using just the moon chart basically after over the age of 50, and does it work?
Yeah, and I use for like some of the clients, they're actually a little bit older, so I will use moon chart. But right now I also use moon chart because I'm a little bit older, and the older you get, you can actually resonate with the moon chart a little bit more, because moon actually in Vedic astrology, moon rules our emotions and consciousness. So you will feel consciously and emotionally more connected to the placements if you read from the moon chart. So you can try. I mean, all the people, audience can try this.
You have like a second chance later in life that your chart changes from the perspective of the moon. If you fact it up through the ascendant now, maybe through the looks of the moon can be a better run the older you get.
Oh, I also find it's very interesting because not just from your natal charts. So the moon chart is actually on top of your natal chart. So don't take away from what's happening in your natal chart, but the moon chart is like the added information to that. And also you can also see from different planets. The moon is more like connecting to our consciousness and emotions, so you can feel more connected, like emotionally connected to that. Especially, for example, if you look at the 10th house from your moon placements, you'll feel more connected to, emotionally connected to that career path. I find it's quite interesting, and also that's the added information on top of the transits. If you look at from your rising sign and you look at from your moon sign, you can sort of like see what's going to happen for the next year and what to expect.
Wonderful. Thank you for the explanation.
No worries. And but I don't know about if this reading is good for looking from your sun sign, but if you want, you can also listen from your sun sign. You can do that. Now, so there are several rising signs that are going to have a big year in 2023, like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Pisces, and Leo. And they all have planets go through the first house, particularly Aries and Taurus, because they also have planets go through their 12th house. So is Gemini. So this is going to be a big transition in 2023 for the signs that I mentioned just now. And particularly for first house, because first house rules, this is the most important house, the most important transit in life, because first house rules you, your life path. And the planets that are transiting through the first house are going to have a profound impact on your growth. The planets that moves through the first house is going to make you, is going to shape you, is going to make you become who you're meant to be and lay out your path for you. So, and because ascendant is always about learning to becoming the best version of yourself along the path. So when planets move through the first house, it's very important. Each planet, they will do what it needs to do in order to help you become better in your life path. Particularly when planets move through your first house and go retrograde, it becomes extremely important. So that's why Jupiter and Saturn, they're always important when they transit in your first house, because these two planets, they go retrogrades when they transit in one sign. And Venus, Mercury, and Mars, they are fast-moving planets, but when they go through your first house and then it goes retrograde, then the transit becomes very, very important. For example, like Gemini. Gemini, we start with Gemini, because Gemini has Mars, the fast moving planets, move through their first house and goes retrograde this year. And this event only happens once every 15 years. So it's very, very rare. So that's why it makes this transit extremely significant. And from August to March next year, Mars will stay in your first house for 7-8 months long. And Gemini can feel that's their path, because this is your first path, go into a more Martian way. Like, for example, Mars is about fixing things. You might find yourself in situations of fixing things, fixing problems, fixing like actual items, or fixing homes. You're fixing your house. Sometimes you might find yourself trying to get things done without any help. And you end up learning to do things on your own, because Mars is the energy that you do things on your own, regardless, with or without help. So that's the energy that you learn from Mars. And in a way, you also learn to focus on the things that really matters to you and do it anyway and on your own. But overall, when Mars transits your first house and goes retrogrades, there's a sense of battle and fight to get things done or get things fixed during this transit. Or it could be that life situations make you fight for yourself, defend yourself, or defend others. For example, it could be that you're inspired to learn some martial arts or Muay Thai, like physical fighting or defending skills, or circumstances make you learn to stand up for yourself, fight for your worth, fight for your voice. Or it could be that you learn to defend others when you witness unjust situations happen. It could also be that you get more injured during these transits, and it could be also all of them, depending on the whole chart. But it really boils down to where you're at in your life right now. You may not have like actual physical fighting with the others during this transits, like people who are 15 years age. Your maturity level and your life stage, your life experiences determine the experience during this transit. But overall, there's an element of struggle, battle, and fight. But in the long run, Mars transit in the first house helps you to learn to stand up for yourself, find your worth, fight for your worth, fight for your voice, and fix things, fix problems. Then let's continue with Gemini. So career and money-wise in 2023, Saturn will enter your 10th house in March in 2023, and then will stay there until 2026, so almost 3 years. And Jupiter will move into your 11th house from December, like right now, until mid-May next year. And then Jupiter will change side and travel into your 12th house from mid-May and will stay there for a year. Saturn transit in the 10th house is actually a big deal. In Vedic astrology's technique, each planet, they have their significator house. And Saturn's significator house is actually 10th house. So when Saturn transits in the 10th house, it's like the beginning of Saturn's cycle. Not first house, not 7th house, 10th house. 10th house is Saturn's cycle begins. So this happens only once every 28 or 29 years. We may experience 2 times or 3 times, depending how long we live, our lifespan. So it's very, very rare. And 10th house rules the deeds that we want to do in life, our vocation, ambitions, and also the beauty that we want to bring into society. It rules the work environments, social image, and also our social status. So when Saturn moves into the 10th house, this is like big. It's like you start or readjust your developmental period of your professional path, because Saturn's first house, Saturn's key house is 10th house. So when Saturn moves into the 10th house, it's like your developmental period starts. And this is an important time for you to develop your career in a more serious way, or redefine your career path. For example, you love art and you do art casually. So when Saturn moves into the 10th house, you might put all your focus on art, like it's the greatest thing to do in life. And then you're going to take like serious actions towards that direction. And it also acts like you finally take a big step into the thing, into the path that you want to do in life. And Saturn is the planet of work and efforts. So when it moves into the 10th house, it requires tremendous effort. Whether you are developing your career or taking your career to another level, it requires a lot of effort, more responsibilities, perseverance, patience to deliver. And Saturn transit in the 10th house can also bring more structure, order, discipline, and maturity to your professional path. You might become more productive and ordered, and you can also become more mature in how you handle your work, your social image, or your reputation. Generally, Saturn transit in the 10th house could be a fruitful time, but it definitely brings more responsibilities and heavy workload, and there can be some delays. But as long as you follow Saturn's rules, like doing things step by step in the lawful way, commitment, patience, and perseverance, eventually success will come. And in Vedic astrology, each planet has its like eyesight, like what I introduced in the beginning, Dristi. When Saturn transits in the 10th house, it looks at the 7th house. Saturn actually looks at 4 different places, but 7th house is more relevant to the topic today, because 7th house rules contracts, partnerships, trading, any one-on-one relationships, counseling, consultation. And 7th house also rules bargaining, deal making, matchmaking, alliance forming. So if you're in a business partnership, or if your work requires to work with other people, collaborations, or to arrange things to happen, or maybe to close a deal, sign a contract, Saturn will also bring some delays and challenges in those areas. And you might feel you need to work extra hard to make contracts signed or to push collaborations forward. And you might need to take extra responsibilities in your partnerships or collaborations. But like I said, Saturn transit the 10th house is actually a big deal. So this is the beginning of Saturn's cycle. So all the hard work that you do right now, like during this transit, and the duties and the responsibilities that you take on, they are like Saturn is preparing you and getting you ready into a bigger way on the things that you going to do in life, on the things that you think is the most important thing that you want to do in life, which is your career path, your vocation. And finally, you will take more important actions towards that direction as well. So this is huge. Now for Jupiter will stay in 11th house from December to mid-May next year. So for Gemini, you can expect growth and expansion in your network circles, material achievements, support from your friends and community, beneficial connections on personal and also business level. 11th house also rules our older siblings and the supports that they can provide you. So Jupiter is in so money-wise, because the 11th house is actually the house of money, making money, and Jupiter is a significator of wealth. So there's a growth and expansion when it comes to money making, recognition, trophies, titles. So it will most likely increase your assets and material gains and also your material goals. You might receive a pay rise, recognition, titles for what you do during this transit, because 11th house is second from the 10th. So whatever you do regarding your career path, you can receive the recognition. And 11th house also rules our benefactors, friend circles. So Jupiter transit in this 11th house can also bring some support from your friends, from your benefactors. And it could be that your older siblings is actually your best benefactor, and your older sibling can bring you a lot of opportunities and support during this transit. And the 11th house, like I said, it's second from 10th, and Jupiter will help you to see opportunities regarding your career, regarding your long-term dreams and goals. So it expands your vision. And Jupiter transit in the 11th house is January extremely lucky for money, money making in the marketplace, your profits, especially if you are in business area. And definitely there's progression in your long-term goals. Then afterwards, Jupiter will move into 12th house from mid-May next year, and will stay there until 2024. So there will be 12th house is also a very important house. There will be more opportunities for spiritual awakening, spiritual growth, more opportunities to travel to distant lands. And you actually have more luck when you travel. And 12th house is a house of deep contemplation, subconscious mind. You may grow some interest in spirituality, spiritual knowledge, dream world, psychology, or symbolism, occult study, meditation. 12th house is also associated with medicine, imagination, creativity, research, hospital, jails, retreats, sanctuary, charity work, and non-profit organization, or working behind the scenes. So as I mentioned, because Saturn transit in your 10th house is a critical time for you to take bigger action towards the direction you want to go regarding your career path. So when Jupiter transit in the 12th house, it can also expand your interest in those areas, the areas that I mentioned just now. You might discover and develop some interest in those subjects, which you never thought about before, and then they can become like a potential career path for you. Other than that, Jupiter transit in the 12th house is very important transit, because first house is the most important house that we mentioned in the introduction. Whatever planets transit in the first house, that's your life path. And 12th house is the last house. The beginning and the ending, they're always the most important things. So lessons that are related to Jupiter are very much highlighted during this transits, like children, husband in women's charts, because Jupiter signifies the husband in women's charts, money, wealth, spirituality, religion, or teacher, like guru, your relationship with your guru can be highlighted during this transits. But which one is which, it really depends on your whole chart. But you will experience those topics, like endings of those topics, or maybe some beginnings of those topics. It's all possible. So for Gemini, with Saturn transit in the 10th house, this is a critical time for you to step into a more important thing, like important professional path that you're going to do in life. Saturn's beginning, the beginning of Saturn's cycle. And this only happens every 28 to 29 years. So it's very rare. And at the same time, because Jupiter is transiting the 12th house, so there's an overlapping time here. So you're finishing up something that's related to Jupiterian things. Like I said, kids, education, maybe your husband, or wealth. And you might realize something, and you might let go of some Jupiterian lessons, have a conclusion, realization about those things. So you not only just have a big things for your career path, it's also a major transition regarding your life path. So yeah, very exciting. Now, for Cancer rising or Cancer moon. So Saturn will transit your 9th house, and Jupiter will move through the 10th house from December to mid-May, and from mid-May it will move through your 11th house and will stay there for a year. We start with Saturn. So Saturn brings delays, challenges, and limitation. It requires extra work and determination, commitment. Saturn transit the 9th house is actually a neutral position, because the 9th house is Jupiter's house, and Jupiter is neutral to Saturn. Like friendship-wise, Jupiter is neutral to Saturn. So when Saturn transits in the house that's neutral to him, it's fine. Saturn won't deny the matters that are related to 9th house. And the final results after Saturn's transits for almost 3 years will manifest in elegant, streamlined, and mature fashion. So no need to worry about this transit. And 9th house rules our higher education, higher learning. your wisdom, spirituality, religion, foreign travels, gurus, teachers, and publication. So foreign travel might be more difficult during this transit for Cancer, or there can be more delays, or there might be some restrictions when it comes to traveling. But if you work in a job that requires you to travel more, then there will be more like business trips, work trips. Ninth house also rules the higher education. So if you're thinking to apply for a master degree, like PhD or any kind of higher study, this is a good time, because Saturn's lessons are always about diligence, determination, hard work, and perseverance. So January is a perfect time to undertake any kind of long-term study, particularly subjects that are related to ninth house, like humanitarian stuff, spirituality, philosophy, ideology, religion, cultural, wisdom of any kind, or academic subjects. Ideally, you can choose a program that can last like 2 to 3 years. So that fits to Saturn's transit, like almost 3 years. And Saturn transit ninth house can be very supportive for teaching job, or a job that requires travels or training. And there'd be more like workload and responsibilities if you work in those areas. And if you're in import export business, or if you deal with foreigners, or if you're working in tourism, foreign travel, or travel related, or if you're in a position that's you're in charge of organizing trainings, or if you're in academia, or if you're working on a book, like you're writing a book, or if you're working on your dissertation, or if you're in publication, you can expect some delays, slow progress. It requires extra work and energy to deliver, especially like if you're writing a dissertation for your PhD or your master degree, the progress might be even longer. And if you don't want that to happen, you have to put extra effort to deliver your work. Extra efforts, tremendous efforts, repeated efforts. And Saturn transit the ninth house is also looking at 11th house, 3rd house, and 6th house. And both 11th house and 3rd house, they are house of desires, like public houses. And 11th house is to do with the gains, like money making, recognition, titles, and trophies. So recognition, promotion, and titles or pay rise might be delayed during this transit. And if your job requires making connections with people, expanding your network circles, you also need to work extra hard to make things happen, to push things forward. And there might be some limited support coming from your friends, or from your benefactors, or even from your older siblings. Saturn transit in the ninth house is also looking at the 6th house. 6th house is the house of work, routines, and health. So there might be some like more responsibilities and duties at work, and more effort to keep up your routines and lifestyle, the lifestyle you want to live. So maybe it's due to because there's a lot of like work duties. So that's why it can be a little bit off balanced. And work and life can become a source of stress if you cannot find a balance. So pay attention to that. And it can also make you vulnerable to illness. And afterwards, Jupiter will transit into your 10th house from December until mid-May. Jupiter transit in the 10th house is like a celebration because it's great for your career development, career success, and social status, and also your reputation. So there will be more opportunities and doors open for you regarding your professional development. And usually it's a favorable time for you, for your professional development. And when Jupiter moves through in 10th house, you will see new ways to expand your career, your business, your social image, or your reputation. And that inspiration comes from within, like you have an aha moment or have some kind of creative ideas to help you to move forward from your current situation. And 10th house rules our bosses and supervisors. It also rules people with power. So during this transits, you may find them standing behind you, backing you all the way. So perhaps there will be some rewards or opportunities for you to shine. You know, those people that will bring opportunities for you to shine. And Jupiter usually brings many to the house it's in. So when Jupiter transits the 10th house, it can bring more responsibilities and workload. And don't forget, earlier I mentioned that Saturn transits the 9th house is also looking at the 6th house. So that's also an indication for heavy workload, lots of work. So you have double indicators for more workload and responsibilities. 10th house also rules leadership positions, so there might be some extra managerial responsibilities added to your current duties. Now, Jupiter transit in the 10th house is looking at the 2nd house and the 6th house. 2nd house is to do with your money, investments, accumulated wealth, material possessions. So money situation will improve during this transits, and you might make money with your investments. Or it could be that you're able to find resources that are available for you when you need it, like you feel more prosperous. You're able to access to different resources. It doesn't have to be money. Or it could be that you receive gifts during this transit. But the amount of increase and the amount of money that Jupiter brings boils down to the condition of your natal Jupiter. So not everyone is going to get big money or big gift during this transit. Afterwards, Jupiter will enter into your 11th house from mid-May 2023, and it will stay there for a year until 2024. 11th house is associated with gains, recognition, titles, and trophies. It rules friend circles, networks, community, and marketplace, long-term dreams and goals. It rules older siblings. So money-wise, Jupiter can expand your gains during these transits, particularly financial rewards, financial goals from your career, because it's a second from 10th. So gains from your career path. And 11th house also rules marketplace. So you can also gain from your marketplace if you are in business field or doing some kind of business. And it can be, it can also bring you support from your network circles, your friends and elder siblings. And there will be opportunities for you to achieve your goals. But remember, Saturn transits the 9th house is also looking at the 11th house. So Saturn is sending the influence to the 11th house as well. So the amount of gains will be reduced. And even though there might be some opportunities for new source of income, it might also come with some challenges and obstacles. So it's not a smooth sailing when you have Jupiter transiting your 11th house, especially Jupiter is not very comfortable in Taurus. So yeah. And during this transit, you can also potentially achieve some of your goals, not all of it. Like I said, because the luck and also the blessings that Jupiter brings can be reduced. And 11th house rules our achievements, long-term dreams and goals. So Jupiter transit in the 11th house still brings some opportunities for you to achieve, whether it's your professional recognition or your financial achievements. But like I said, because Jupiter is not strong, and also Saturn is looking at the 11th house. So you will still need to work extra hard for your goals, perhaps experience some delays and challenges in those areas. Now, Leo. For Leo rising and Leo moon, Saturn will travel through your 8th house, and Jupiter will move through your 9th house from December to mid-May. And from mid-May, it will move through to your 10th house and will stay there for 1 year. So Saturn transit in the 8th house is a very, very big transit. It's a life-changing period, because in Vedic astrology, every planet has their significator house and cycles. For Saturn, like I said, Saturn's key house, Saturn's significator house is the 10th house. So when Saturn transits the 10th house, that's where Saturn begins its cycle. Then Saturn travels through all the houses and finally reaches to the highest points of this cycle, which is the 11th from the 10th house cusp. Usually it's 8th house. But it might be different if your midheaven, your 10th house cusp is in 11th house. Then 11 from the 8th will be in 9th. Or if your midheaven is in 9th house, then the 11 from the 10th house cusp will be in 7th. So it might be different. But since this video is a general reading, so I will go along with midheaven is in the 10th house. And again, I'm using whole sign house system. Excuse me. So don't use any unequal house system for this technique. Only equal house, only whole sign house system. So the highest point of Saturn's cycle will be when Saturn transits the 8th house, or 11 from the 10th house cusp to be exact. So why 11th house? Because the 11th house is the house of gains, house of increase. And 11th house is the Upajjhaya house in Vedic astrology. So it means things and planets will get better and better with time. So when you have Saturn transit in the 8th house, there will always be some benefits to you because you're receiving the reward. Some results of work manifested for you. It can also be that's your desire regarding your professional path are fulfilled. And this is the reward position. And this period of getting the benefits of all the hard work you've done in the cycle of Saturn, which is like probably like 20 plus years, because Saturn starts from the 10th house and goes along probably 25 years and you reach to your reward position. So yeah, it's very rare and also it's life-changing time. And during this transits, usually people get reward from, they can get some reward with fresh new work, or you get new benefits to your work. And oftentimes people, they can change their career during this transit too. So you can see this way because Saturn rules our worldly actions and also the career path, work. 8th house rules changes and rebirth. So these two combined together, you can see that there's a change of career. But it's so much deeper than that. It's more like when Saturn goes through the 8th house, Saturn gives you the career that you're happier with, you're more satisfied with, a career that's more meaningful to you, and also an opportunity that you can do greater work in the world. It's like a step up into your career path, your professional path. So it's not just like a normal career change. It's actually a change that comes with benefits, change for the better. And this change usually is a long-term, because 11th house is to do with the long-term dreams and goals. So whatever decision you make or whatever change that you make during when Saturn transits the 8th house, it's going to be a long-term effect. And you can also see as your long-term reward in this Saturn cycle. And having said that, if you haven't been putting hard work, if you haven't been conscientious about your professional path, your vocation, if you haven't fulfilled your worldly responsibilities, the reward may not be so sweet. It can be very bitter. It can be a period of depression because you realize that the things that you do is actually a waste of energy, a waste of time. And you realize that you need something more meaningful. Then you start to research different options and possibilities and directions. But you will only take more serious and concrete actions towards that direction when Saturn moves into the 10th house. So because that's the beginning of Saturn's cycle. So yeah, Leo with 10th house cusp in the 10th house. Next year, when Saturn moves into your 8th house, if you don't experience your reward, don't be discouraged, because you can also see this time is for you to think about what kind of career path is meaningful to you and what do you really want to do in life. And no matter if it's a reward, no matter if the reward is sweet or bitter, you will still improve in your career development, your worldly actions. It's just one is through like sweets, like getting the reward and prize. Better career, a career that you are more happy with, and has more meaning to it. And the other one is through like deep realization that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're doing something that's waste of time. And the process can be quite painful, but ultimately it will lead you to the right path. It's good for the long run. Now, for all Leos, regardless where your midheaven is, some other situations that you can expect when Saturn transits the 8th house. 8th house rules other people's money, your spouse's money, business partner's money, joint resources with your spouse, mutual resources, and it also rules money that you get from the service that you provide to others. So if you're doing some kind of commission based, then that's also ruled by 8th house. So it's very money centric. And during this transit, you can feel financially restricted when it comes to mutual finances. Perhaps your spouse or your boyfriend is going through some financial difficulties, and they might be saving up for some big purchase. So that's why the money is a little bit tight, or their money is tied in with investments. So whatever that is, the money situations on their end is tighter. And the same situation could also happen to you and your business partner if you have one. Something happens on their ends, they are not able to contribute the same. As a result, you need to take on more financial responsibilities and work extra hard to make sure things don't go wrong. And if you have been financially relying on your partner, boyfriend, the partner might become more strict. Again, you will need to take more responsibilities and learn to rely on yourself financially. On the positive note, you can also see it this way. It could also mean that you start to make more money. So you're able to contribute more. You're able to rely on yourself. And Saturn transit the 8th house could also mean that you start taking care of your taxes, insurance, and so on, because those two belong to other people's money as well. So Saturn brings challenges. So if you want to get your tax return or insurance claim, it will be difficult. And if you want to apply for a loan, or if you want to apply for financial support from the government, it will be more difficult during this time. So pay attention to that. And when Saturn transit in the 8th house, is also looking at 10th house. Work-wise, it will give you like extra responsibilities in your career, in your professional field. Heavy workload, it requires you to work harder, persevere, be patient, and dutiful. And if you're in a leadership position or heavy visibility position, you might need to be careful with your public image, like try not to make mistakes. Perhaps you're in a very important position and then you cannot afford making mistakes in regards to your reputation. Now, Jupiter will transit 9th house from now, December, and will stay in your 9th house until mid-May next year. So this is a very beautiful transit for Leo. If you work in academic field, or if you're in a university setting, education, there will be more opportunities for you to teach, to share your knowledge. Even though if you're not a teacher, but maybe people just ask for your help, ask for your advice, or your knowledge and wisdom. And if you're in the position for organizing trainings, for example, like a yoga teacher training, or if you're in publication or literary achievements, this will go well for you. And if you're in spiritual or religious field, or if you're involved with humanistic work or something on the global international level, this transit will be also very supportive. And you might be inspired to take higher education during this transit, a degree or a diploma. It's also very possible that you will take your interest into a higher learning with this transit. For example, astrology. Maybe it's just probably a hobby, but during this transit, you want to know more. You want to take it to a higher level. You want to proper study astrology, deepening your knowledge. And if you are in the law and justice, this industry, it can also go very well for you. And for Leo, this is a good time for traveling, exploring the world, foreign affairs, dealing with foreigners, or doing foreign business. And ninth house rules gurus, teachers, advisors, mentors, or wisdom figures, or maybe your tutors. So you can get good advice from them, and they can have a positive influence on you and also direct you on your right path. And basically your mind will become more, your outlook on life will become more positive and optimistic. And you'll be also open to, you'll be more open to different spiritual modalities, practices, beliefs, or culture. And you might even be inspired to travel to sacred places. And afterwards, Jupiter will transit into the 10th house from mid-May and will stay there for a year until 2024. Jupiter transit in the 10th house is great for your career path, your career development, your social image and reputation. And there will be more opportunities and doors open for you regarding your professional development. And it's a favorable time for your career path and also your career development. When Jupiter transits in the 10th house, you are able to see opportunities and also new ways of doing things to expand your career, to expand your reputation, to expand your business. And you can also have more inspirations and creative ideas like coming from inside to help you to move forward from your current situation and move onward and upward. 10th house rules our bosses and supervisors, and it also rules like people with power. So during these transits, you may find them standing behind you, supporting you, backing you all the way, perhaps even bringing you some promotion, rewards, or opportunities to shine. And Jupiter usually brings many to the house it's in. So when Jupiter moves into the 10th house, the responsibilities and worldly actions and responsibilities, it means that your workload will be increased. As I mentioned earlier, Saturn transit in the 8th house is also looking at the 10th house. So there's also an indication for more work responsibilities and workload. So you have this double indications for more workload and responsibilities. And if we only look at Jupiter transit, the 10th house is actually great. So we can expect a lot of blessings and luck and support from Jupiter in our career path. But because Saturn transit in the 8th house is also sending the influence to the 10th house, so there might be some delay and also some challenges in regards to 10th house. You can still experience the luck from Jupiter, but it's just not that big. The luck's still there, but just not that powerful. And despite your career and money situation, there's another important event for Leo is Venus will transit and retrograde in your first house. So this is also a very important event next year. Even though I'm not talking about, I'm not going to talk about the relationship, but it's just a heads up because Venus is about relationships and not just about romantic relationships. It's all relationships, how we connect with other people. So this issue will be very much highlighted next year when Venus transit and goes retrograde in your first house. Now, Virgo. Saturn will transit your 7th house and Jupiter will move through 8th house from December. Sorry, Jupiter will move through 8th house from December to mid-May. And from mid-May, it will move through your 9th house and then will stay there for a year. So Saturn transit in the 7th house brings delays, extra work, resistance, but it also brings structure, order, disciplines, and maturity in the 7th house topics. So things like justice, fairness, contracts, negotiation, deal making, alliance forming, partnerships, and any one-on-one relationship. So when Saturn transit in the 7th house, it requires stricter commitment, repetitive, extra, like tremendous effort to uphold the partnership, promise, agreements, contracts, and so on. But 7th house is Venus's house. And in Vedic astrology, Venus and Saturn, they are good friends. So when Saturn transit a house of a friend, even though the 7th house matters will be tested, will be challenged and restricted and delayed, but the final results after Saturn's transit for almost 3 years will manifest in a positive fashion. So no need to worry. And Virgo may feel restrained in all kinds of negotiation situations and collaborations, particularly in the beginning of the transit. And also if your job requires forming alliances or making connections with other people, expanding your clientele, deal making or bargaining, or if your job needs to involve other people in order to complete, like you can't do this by yourself, you always have to go through other people or to include other people into your work. You'll feel the most in the beginning of the transit. And so Saturn transit in the 7th house can test your patience, and there might be like a prolonged negotiation process in order to come to a common ground or achieve final agreements, because it's about, you know, arranging things and making all the parties come to the common ground. And pay attention to contracts, because 7th house rules contracts. So even though the contract deal looks okay in the beginning, but there might be new regulatory requirements or unexpected situations that will postpone the conclusion of the deal or the conclusion of the contract. So pay attention to that. And when Saturn transit in the 7th house, you can enter into a more long-term commitment, whether it's business or romantic. Life events will somehow force you to learn to take on more responsibilities in the partnership. And it could be that the partnership becomes more demanding, or the partnership requires you to put more effort. But by the end of the transit, you will definitely grow in the partnership and learn to be more responsible and organized, and learn to handle partnerships and business fairly and properly, because 7th house is the house of trading. So yeah, you know, the equal give and take. And during the transit, you could partner up with people who are more experienced in your area of expertise, or someone older, or someone who is in a higher social status. For example, when I had Saturn transit my 7th house, but I also had Jupiter transit my 7th house at the same time. So I have Saturn and Jupiter transit my 7th house. I started working with Lada. So Lada is a very important and high profile astrologer. And then she's not older than me, by the way. I think we are the same age, but she's definitely more successful in that area. So this can also manifest for you, like someone who is more high profile or in a higher social status and come into your life. And also because Saturn is more about long-term collaboration and commitment. So this could manifest for you as well, for Virgo. Then Jupiter will move through your 8th house from December to mid-May. And 8th house rules other people's money, other people's resources, your spouse's money, business partner's money, or the joint resources, joint assets with your spouse or with your business partner. And it also rules the money that you get from the service that you provide. So it's very money-centric. When Jupiter moves into your 8th house, it can increase your spouse's financial situation. It brings luck to your spouse's financial situation or your business partner's financial situation. If you have a mutual assets, that could somehow benefit you. And if you have a business partner, maybe they will contribute more to the mutual finances. And during the transit, you can also expect some financial returns from other people. For example, if someone owes you money, maybe they pay you back during this transit. Or maybe you can expect some tax return or insurance claim. or if you want to apply for loan or financial supports, this is a good time. And you can also expect some financial supports from other people. For example, your partner, your spouse, your boyfriend or your spouse, they financially support you during this transit if you are actually suffering from financial situations, struggling. And or maybe other people, they provide their resources for you to utilize, not necessarily money, but for example, like their client base, platform, or products, or their talents for you to utilize, so you can utilize those things, and in order for you to make more money. But basically during this transit, because Jupiter is benevolent, so you can rely on help from other people, materially, financially, and emotionally, because 8th house is also an emotional strength. Inheritance is also ruled by 8th house, so you might inherit something during this transit too. But one thing I like to point out is that the amount of money, the amount of support is determined by the dignity of your natal Jupiter. So if the natal Jupiter is not doing great, you may not get a lot of help or money. For example, another example, my natal Jupiter is not very good. So when Jupiter transits my 8th house, what happened to me was my partner took care of my stomach and also provided a roof over my head because I was struggling financially. Emotionally, he wasn't nagging so much about I needed to get a job, like a normal job, because he thinks like yoga teaching or healing work or astrology are not very practical to support myself. But that is because I'm not a very successful case. So yeah, that's what he thinks. But that's what happened to me. I still get some support, even though my Jupiter is not very strong. But I didn't inherit anything, but I get food and roof. Then Jupiter will move through your 9th house from mid-May, and it will stay there for a year. So 9th house rules the higher mind, our outlook on life, and Jupiter will expand your vision, and you will become more positive and optimistic. You're able to see life through a higher perspective, and you become more inspired and optimistic about your future. 9th house in Vedic astrology is the most fortunate house. So when Jupiter transits this house, even though if you have some difficult transits at the same time, you will still be able to remain positive and trust in life, which is really good. And during this transit, you might be inspired to learn some higher wisdom, or you might take your interest to a higher learning, like deepening your knowledge. For example, maybe you were just having fun doing tarot reading, and now you want to deepen your tarot reading, tarot cards. So you might want to further study like tarot cards, the symbolism and everything about tarot. And you can also become more open to different cultures, philosophy, beliefs, religion, and spirituality during this transit. And there will be more opportunities for you to teach, to share your knowledge, even though you're not a teacher, even though you're not a mentor, or even though you're not in a position like advisory position, but people may come to you and ask you advice. So you become like more like advisor during this transit. The transit is very supportive for humanistic work or any work that's on the international scale. And it's also good for foreign travel, tourism. And it's also very good for if you're doing business with foreigners, interacting with the foreigners, import, exports, or providing service to foreign cultures. So it could be that you're living in the same country, but you're providing service to different communities. Now, Libra. Saturn will will travel through your 6th house, and Jupiter will move through 7th house from December to mid-May, and from mid-May, Jupiter will travel through your 8th house and stay there for 1 year. Saturn transit the 6th house brings delays, extra work, and Saturn slows down the process in the matters that are related to 6th house. And it brings blockages and resistance when it comes to 6th house matters, but it also brings structure, orders, and disciplines. And it's very interesting because Saturn also brings reality check to the topics that are related to 6th house. For example, you might ask yourself, are you being responsible for your health? Especially 6th house is very like health centric. And are you being responsible for your everyday activities and routines? And how does your lifestyle serve you? And how's your relationship with nature? Saturn is the planet that's very connected to nature. And Saturn also brings reality check about your work situation. Like you might ask yourself, is it worth of my time and energy? And how does my work serve me? Saturn transit in the 6th house is another critical transit when it comes to Saturn's cycle. It's not related to career and money, but it's more health related. And this is the key time for you to make long-term change for your health and develop your health. And whatever changes that you make during this transit is going to make a long-term impact on your health condition, your longevity. So yeah, pay attention to that. But Saturn's transit in your 6th house, it will take 3 hours. So you have 3 years to enjoy and to manifest and also see the lessons. Back to work and career. 6th house rules daily routines, daily activities, and lifestyle habits, work and health. So when Saturn transit the 6th house, is going to bring tests and challenges to those topics. It requires stricter commitment, repeated efforts, and tremendous effort to do a good job. 6th house rules work. So if you're working in medical field, healing field, medicine related field, or health related, pharmaceutical or pets, or service to others, you provide your service to others, the work will go really well during this transit. And you can even get recognition, but still you have to put a lot of efforts, repeated efforts. And Saturn requires, like I said, like commitments and extra efforts. So you will need to, like I said, put in a lot of efforts in order to hold up, to maintain the level of success or the status of your work. And during this transit, the authority figures or co-workers, they may overlook your work. So you will need to work extra harder to be seen, to be recognized for what you do. And there might be some delayed promotions and recognition. And work can become a source of stress and frustration because there's a lot of work responsibilities, and colleagues or your employees may not, they might become more negative, unpleasant, or even draining. So, and also they can also become a burden for you. So with that, the work environments and also work might become more difficult. So pay attention to that. And when Saturn transit in the 6th house, it also raises the question if you want to stay in the current job, especially when the co-workers, like I said, they might become more negative, draining, or they might become a burden for you. And the boss is not acknowledging your best efforts, and work can become a source of stress and frustration. And depression is likely to happen during this transit. And you may find yourself seriously questioning why you're doing what you're doing. And when Saturn transits the 6th house, it's time for adjustments regarding your job, not career, but job. As a result, there might be a change of career, change of job. 6th house also rules lifestyle. With Saturn transit in the 6th house, you may feel overburdened with the pressure of life. Like I said, your work environments, also your co-workers, they may become like overpowering, unpleasant, oppressing. So in the extreme case, the stress from work or stress from life in total can cause like illness or imbalanced situation for the body and the mind. So that's why I said when Saturn transits in the 6th house, actually, it brings up a more important question that is to do with your health. And how do you find a balance between work and also your health? And how do you improve your health condition? But 6th house is Mercury's house, and Saturn and Mercury, they are good friends. So even though there might be some challenges and obstacles regarding 6th house topics, but by the end of the transits, it will manifest in the positive way. But you still have to follow Saturn's lessons, like perseverance, patience, hard work, doing things step by step and without cutting corners, especially when it comes to your work and also your health. You can't do things like just skip steps in order to get a good health. Now, Jupiter will move through your 7th house from December to mid-May. And in Vedic astrology, each planet has their significator house. And 7th house is Jupiter's key house. So because 7th house is a house of co-creating something with somebody. And it's a house of creating your dynasty, your legacy, creating great things that is going to last for a long time. So that's why Jupiter's key house is in 7th house. And the great thing that you want to create and leave behind, it can be babies, children, or embracing someone into your life. Or it can also be that you are embraced by the public because you're doing something beneficial for the society. So if anyone who is doing any work that's to do with the public, or someone who is creating their dynasty, what they want to leave behind is not just about their children, not just about creating babies and children, but it's also something that they want to create to benefit the society. Then when Jupiter transit in the 7th house, this transit will become very, very crucial for them, for this dynasty to unfold and manifest. But it can be both. Like you can also have a babies, and you can also have the career or the things that you want to create and last for a long time. And Jupiter is a creative planet. So people usually have a strong Jupiter in the natal charts. They are usually very creative. They have this ever-flowing creativity. They're always creating something, like creating food, creating articles, creating business ideas and solutions. And so when Jupiter transits the house of creating something with someone that you can leave behind, either you need a partner to create a baby, or you start creating something that can impact the society, the public, with someone. So one of the manifestation is you can expect pregnancy during Jupiter transit in your 7th house, because that's baby is something that you can leave behind, or you can meet someone who is very powerful, significant, that you can create something together, or you're offered some opportunities that you can create something that you can live for a long time. For example, when I had Jupiter enters into my 7th house, this is the example I gave to another sign, but I can't remember which one, but I started working with Lada. And this is a very important and high profile astrologer coming to my life. And we're creating videos together online. As long as YouTube doesn't crash, these videos can last for a long time. And at the same time, because I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, so I started making more Kundalini yoga videos online. So, creating something that can last. So for Libra, you can also notice that you may want to create something more when Jupiter transits your 7th house. And other things when Jupiter comes into your 7th house is that 7th house rules contracts, partnerships, and working with others, including others into your life bargaining, trading, deal making, matchmaking, forming alliance. And Jupiter will bring expansion, growth, and luck, blessings into those subjects. So any kind of relationships will go well during this transit. Your business partnerships, relationship with your siblings, or any one-on-one relationship, that they can become a source of joy or they can become a source of help for you. And you can also see growth in your clientele, allies, and collaborations. And 7th house rules one-on-one communication, one-on-one relationship. So you might start your counseling career during this transit, start to create something that you like to last, like you can leave behind and last for a long time. And 7th house is associated with negotiation, bargaining, trading, arranging things. So your negotiation skill will improve during this transit. Your skill of making things happen, arranging things will improve. And if you're in a business field, it brings more opportunities for expansion. And you might even, start to put yourself out there more. Your visibility improves during this transit. Just like I said, I started making more Kundalini yoga teaching videos, and also the videos that I made with Lada. So I put myself out there and the visibility improves. And Jupiter usually gives many, so your interaction with other people will increase. And Jupiter brings more opportunities to work with other people, to collaborate. And it brings more long-term beneficial working relationships. And it can also increase your inclination to collaborate with other people, which is good, especially if you're loner, if you don't like to work with other people. So it can increase your inclination to work with other people, include other people into your life. 7th house is a house of public, so the house of others. So you can receive some positive attention and praise, compliments from other people during this transit as well. Then Jupiter will move through your 8th house from mid-May 2023, and then will stay there for a year until 2024. So 8th house rules other people's money, others' resources, your spouse's money, business partner's money, joint resources with your spouse, mutual assets. And it also rules the money that you get from service that you provide to other people. So it's very money-centric. And when Jupiter moves through 8th house, it brings luck to your spouse's financial situation. So perhaps your spouse wins a lottery or make more money from their investments. Or if you have a business partner, especially when Jupiter transits in your 7th house, maybe you form some kind of partnership with someone, and this partner is very powerful. They can contribute more into your collaboration. So that's also possible. And 8th house rules the money that you get from service that you provide. So if you work in commission-based job, it can go well. And during this transit, you can also expect some financial returns coming from others. For example, someone owes you money and they pay you back, or tax return, or insurance claim. So you can also expect some financial support from other people. For example, your spouse or your boyfriend supports you during this transit, like financially, or someone provides you their resources for you to utilize so you can make more money, for example. Not necessarily their money, but they provide their clientele, client base, their channel or their talents, platform, and so on, their resources for you to utilize. Basically, during this transit, you can rely on help from other people, materially, financially, and emotionally. But when Jupiter transits the 8th house, because Saturn transit in the 6th house is also looking at the 8th house. So the amount of money, the amount of help, the amount of support will be reduced. You can still experience some luck, but not that powerful. And sometimes there will be some challenges, obstacles, and delays regarding 8th house matters. So for example, insurance can happen, but the process might be very long and slow. Or maybe your husband wins some lottery, but the process claiming the money is very dragging. So something like that. Or you have to fill up a lot of forms in order to claim the money. So there are some obstacles that you have to overcome. So it's not smooth sailing. Now, Scorpio, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute before we start Scorpio.
Sure. Should I pause?
Okay.
I can pause it. Okay, carry on.
So Scorpio rising or Scorpio moon. Saturn will travel through the 5th house from March and will stay there until February 2026. And Jupiter will move through 6th house from December, like right now, and it will stay here until mid-May. And then from mid-May, it will move through your 7th house and will stay there for a year. Saturn transit the 5th house. Saturn, it's not a great position for Saturn because 5th house is an enemy house to Saturn. Because in Vedic astrology, Sun and Saturn, they're enemies to each other. And 5th house is Sun's root house. So when Saturn transits the enemy's house, it can produce like more frustrating delays in the topics that are related to 5th house. It limits your expression of personal intelligence, especially if you work in an area that requires more creativity, like performance arts, entertainment, fashion, show business, drama. You can expect some frustrating delays and setbacks during this transit. But having said that, if Saturn is well supported in this transit, the experience is less about frustration, not so much about blockages. It would be more like heavy responsibilities or heavy workload in those areas. And as Saturn moves through Pisces, will take almost 3 years. So there would definitely be times that planets that making supportive aspect towards Saturn, for example, Venus or Mercury, they're sending the positive influence to Saturn. So it's not going to be like doom and gloom throughout the whole time. Creativity wise, if you can experience some blocks during this transit, the way you approach creativity or art might become more systematic and less spontaneous. It doesn't have to be that you're working in the creative field, because in every kind of work we sort of need some creativity, like think creatively about your solutions, about your presentation, your writing and everything. So in life, a lot of situations that we need creativity. So when Saturn transits in the 5th house, it can block that. And particularly if you're in the creative professional field, you will feel the most. But it doesn't mean that you should stop any projects or your thinking process, because Saturn's lesson is always about perseverance, patience, hard work, and repetition. For example, if you're a writer, even when you don't have a lot of inspiration to write, still try to write a little bit every day. Keep on producing and creating and keep up with your routine. And even though Saturn may block your spontaneous creative flow, but it can also bring more structure and discipline. So after the transit, you can actually come out more organized and disciplined in your process of creation, which can be quite useful and productive. For example, if you're a YouTuber, you can also block your creative ideas about, what kind of videos, what kind of videos you want to present, but still try to keep on producing, creating. And 5th house also rules like learning and education. So you might feel the needs to upgrade your knowledge your education, but it's not out of from inspiration, because Jupiter is the planet of inspiration. You feel inspired to do something. When Saturn transit the fifth house, it's more like it's coming from the place of lack, a place of fear. Like you feel like if you don't do this, maybe this will happen. So perhaps you want to further study like politics if you work in political circles or economy. And maybe if you work in design or in fashion, you feel like you need to upgrade your computer skills, management, and so on. Overall, you feel like less confidence during these transits, not able to express yourself freely, because fifth house rules our creative self-expression. And fifth house also rules fun and pleasure. Your approach to life might become more careful, systematic, and serious. So there might be less social life, and it could be like heavy workload, like you have a lot of work responsibilities. So that's why you don't have time to socialize with your friends. But overall, Saturn's energy is very reducing and also cold. So it can definitely reduce the fun in life. Fifth house also rules our hobbies and interests. So you might find yourself losing interest in some hobbies, or maybe you feel disconnected to the things that used to bring you joy. But having said that, because Saturn rules work, so it could be that you make one of your hobbies, your interest, become your work. For example, you like to make your own clothes for fun. But when Saturn transits in your fifth house, you turn it into a proper work. Jupiter. Now, Jupiter will transit sixth house from December, will stay in the sixth house from December and until May next year. And sixth house rules work. When Jupiter move through sixth house, you might start doing something big, something expensive with your work, with your job, which is good. But at the same time, it can also increase some workload and responsibilities, and potentially high level of competition and stress, because sixth house rules competition. And if you're looking for a new job, Jupiter transit in the sixth house will also help you to find a job that you feel more comfortable in. And sixth house is the Mercury's house. So it's a house of details and analysis. So there will be increased situations that require attention to details, like making sure everything runs smoothly and lots of organizing and planning, like small details. And generally, sixth house rules more difficult things like disagreements, arguments, conflicts, accusation, imbalanced situation, and competition. And Jupiter gives many, so you can expect quite a lot going on, like different factors coming up suddenly and need resolving. And you might feel like there's endless problems to solve, endless conflicts, and you might even get sick because the level of stress and workload. But the good news is, because Jupiter transiting in your sixth house is actually in Pisces. So it's actually, Jupiter is in its own sign, so it's very strong. And you might suddenly just get rid of all the trouble. But the things that trouble you will still keep you on your toe. And you simply won't have a moment to relax during this transit. So pay attention to your health. And the high level of stress can also make you vulnerable towards illness. So watch out your stress level and watch out your eating, because Jupiter is moving through the house of digestive system, the house of gut. So, and when Jupiter transit in the sixth house, is also looking at the second house. The second house, it rules the food that we put into our mouth. So Jupiter sometimes can be quite allowing, permissive. So even with some bad habits, Jupiter can be also allowing some bad habits. So watch out some overeating, comfort eating, or stress eating, and pay attention to your eating habits, your routines as well, and also other habits that can cause trouble for your health. Jupiter transit in the 6th house, also looking at 2nd house, like I said, and also the 10th house. 2nd house rules money, savings, investments, accumulated wealth. So Jupiter can bring some luck and blessings into those areas. There will be enough food in pantry, lots of food, and also more resources available for you when you need it. More financial support for you on this journey. And Jupiter is also looking at the 10th house. 10th house rules our career path and leadership position. So there might be more responsibilities in your professional path, maybe some managerial responsibilities added to your current duties. And at the same time, there will be some opportunities for positive career development and visibility, and also opportunities for new jobs. So Jupiter transit in the 6th house, if you're looking for a new job, this is a good time. And also because Jupiter transit the 6th house is also looking at the 10th house, so double indicator that you can get some luck when it comes to career and job, that if you're looking for a new one. And Jupiter transit in the 6th house, looking at 2nd house in the 10th house. Jupiter also looking at 12th house, but 2nd, 10th, and 6th house, they are all other houses. So there's a focus on responsibilities, and also you can also get some huge support on your earthly achievement. And then Jupiter will move through your 7th house from mid-May next year, and then will stay there for a year. So in Vedic astrology, each planet has their significator house. So for Jupiter, the significator house is the 7th house, because this is the house that we co-creating something with someone. It's a house that creating your dynasty, your legacy, creating the great things that you want to leave behind. And this can mean that creating a baby, embracing someone into your life. It can also be that you are embraced by the public. So you become more visible to the public, and people who have like any work that's to do with public, or someone who is creating their dynasty. What they leave behind is not just about their kids, children, but also something that they can benefit to the world, that benefits to the society. So when Jupiter moves to the 7th house, it's an important time for that dynasty, for the things that you want to leave behind to unfold and manifest. Whether it's a baby or something that you want to leave behind, it doesn't really matter. It's just something that you want to leave behind, and this is the critical time to do so. So one of the manifestation that you can have is that you can expect pregnancy, because that's something that you can leave behind for a long time. But if having a baby is not your focus right now, you may have some inspiration to create something, to develop something that you want to leave behind. I just gave the same example when I talked about Libra, because they also have in Jupiter transiting their 7th house now. And so the example I gave was when I had my Jupiter transit 7th house, that's when I started working with Lada. So a powerful and high profile astrologer. And then we create videos together, and that's something that we can live for a long time. So for Scorpio, Jupiter is going to stay in your 7th house for a year. And this is a very important time for you to take actions towards the things that you want to create and leave behind. And Jupiter transit in the 7th house can also bring some benevolent partners into your life, like expansion in your allies and in your clientele. But because Saturn transit in your 5th house is also sending the influence to the 7th house, so it requires more extra efforts and responsibilities to uphold the partnership. If you happen to, especially if you want to create something with another person, you need to take on more responsibilities in that route. And also there might be some challenges to overcome in the partnership. And 7th house also rules contracts, partnerships, working with others, including others into your life, bargaining, trading, deal making, forming alliance. So your negotiation skill will be improved during this transit, and your skill of making things happen, arranging things will be improved. And you may start putting yourself out there more. Your visibility will increase as well. Now, Jupiter usually gives many in the house that it's in, so your interaction with other people will increase. And Jupiter brings more opportunities to work with other people, to collaborate. And like I said, it can bring more allies into your life and increase your inclination to collaborate with other people. If you're the type of person who always works on, on your own, and then you don't want to work with other people, this is probably a good time to experience what it feels like when working with other people. Like I said, because Saturn transit in the 5th house is also sending the influence to the 7th house, you can still experience luck and blessings with 7th house topics, but because Jupiter's power will be reduced. And even though there might be opportunities for meeting new people, for building new relationships, but Saturn will still bring some challenges and tests to those partnerships, because Saturn transit in the 5th house is also looking at 5th house, sending the influence to the 7th house. So not every partnership or opportunity will bear fruit. Only the solid ones will stay. Now, Sagittarius. Saturn will travel through your 4th house from March and will stay there until 2026. And Jupiter will move through 5th house from December to mid-May, and from mid-May, it will enter your 6th house and stay there for a year. And Saturn transit in the 4th house brings challenges, extra work and extra responsibilities in the 4th house matters. So you might need to take on more responsibilities in your domestic environments. For example, there might be some things that you need to fix them, constructional issues in your home, like fixing the foundation of the house, fixing roof, or changing the boiler, getting rid of some of the furniture. And you might even do some renovation or reconstruction under this transit. And Saturn brings structure, order, and maturity when it transits through the house. So circumstances will make you more organized, like in your domestic environments, in your home, or with your family. For example, perhaps there are too many people living in the same space in your home, or too many cats, too many dogs, and you need to sort out the chores, like who does what in the house, and bringing some structure and organization around home, around domestic environments. Or if you're working from home, if you have a business that's based in your home, there might be some organizing and restructure to do as well. But after this transit, you will come out more organized. And Saturn transit in the 4th house can also bring delays in real estate issues or issues with properties and lands, like signing contracts or buying a house. There can be more problems. For example, like the landlord in the UK, there are certain criteria and also some courses that you have to take in order for you to become an eligible landlord. And also sometimes they will request you to replace some kind of equipment. So there are a lot of things, like small things that make things, it can become like a hassle. And then you have to meet those demands in order to become an eligible landlord. So things like that can happen when Saturn transits in the 4th house. And 4th house also rules family. So it rules the mother in Vedic astrology. So when Saturn transit in the 4th house, you might need to take on more responsibilities for your family or your mother, or maybe your maternal figure. Perhaps your parents or your family are dealing with some kind of difficulties, and then you need to help and solve problems for them. Or mother might be sick, or maternal figure might get sick, or mother might might demand more attention from you. And maybe mother can become a source of stress, not in a bad way, but it just demands more effort of yours. So pay attention to your mother's health or family's health under this transit. Saturn transit in the 4th house will also create some pressure in your home and disturb your emotional well-being, because 4th house rules our emotions. It's Moon's house. It's our private world. So when you have a lot of going on in your home or with your family, it can be quite tough. So you also need to take care of yourself. And Saturn transit in the 4th house is looking at 10th house. So it's sending the influence to the 10th house. So there will be more workload, responsibilities in your career path. But 10th house, it rules the father. So 10th house and 4th house, it's like parents' axis. It can also mean if you're educating your kids, like if you're teaching your kids like preschooling, you might take on more responsibilities in that area. And if not, Saturn transit in the 4th house can also, looking at the 10th house, can create more responsibilities in your career path, as well as in your home or in your domestic environments or with your family. So how do you find the balance between your home life and your work life? Or finding the balance between your responsibilities and emotional well-being is the key under this transit. And not to mention, Saturn transit in the 4th house is also looking at 6th house and 1st house. 6th house is to do with your health, habits, routine, and lifestyle. 1st house rules the body. So both houses, they are health related. So again, pay attention to your physical health as well as your emotional, mental health during this transit. Jupiter will move through your 5th house from December, from now until next May, next year. So in Vedic astrology, each planet has their significator house, their key house. Jupiter's key house is 7th house. It's a house of creating something, your dynasty and legacy with someone else. And usually it's baby, because baby, they can last for a long time. But it can also be some kind of projects or things that you create and last for a long time. And the 11th house from the 7th house cusp, usually it's 5th house. So when Jupiter transits the 5th house, it brings the reward towards your creation, towards the things you've been creating, or towards the things that you've been wanting to create. So again, Jupiter transit in the 7th house, that's the beginning of the cycle of Jupiter. And Jupiter travels go through all the zodiac and until Jupiter reaches 5th house. And that's the reward position, 11 from 7. And why 11th house? Because the 11th house is associated with achievements, gains, and increase. So that's why when planets transit 11 from its key house, it's the reward position. And when Jupiter transits 5th house, the reward can be manifested in many ways. One of the possibilities is that you can meet someone during this transit. Usually it can be husband for women, because Jupiter signifies husband in women's charts in Vedic astrology. And if you do meet someone during this transit, chances are this person is going to be very important in your life, because this person is going to be part of the legacy, part of the empire that you're going to create and leave behind. And oftentimes you will create children with this person, but it can also be like two people coming together as a power couple and creating something long lasting. For example, my sister is Sagittarius rising, and her work is to do with humanistic subjects, social movements. Her favorite and long-term goal is to promote ocean education. So when Jupiter transit her 5th house earlier this year, she was invited to work on the projects that's to do with teenagers' education. And it's very interesting because fifth house also rules the education for teenagers. So this is how it manifested for her. And she blended in her ocean education into the curriculum for these projects. And she organized the summer camp and brought the students to an island, the island that we're from. We're island girls. And so she brought them to the island, introduced marine life, fishing industry, and also environmental issues. And the project went really, really well. It brought so much meaning and purpose. So the CEO of the foundation decided to keep this project as a long-term project. So they would do it like every year. So this is the reward manifested for my sister. When she had a Jupiter transit in the fifth house, she met a powerful partner, a CEO of the foundation, and she was offered this amazing opportunity to promote the topic that she's passionate about. And then it turns into a long-term project. And this reward period of Jupiter's cycle only happens once every 12 years. So Sagittarius, make sure that you can make the best of it for the next 5 months. Or maybe you've already enjoyed your rewards, but hopefully there will be more coming in your way. And other things about the Jupiter transiting the fifth house. Fifth house rules our creative intelligence. And you feel more confidence in expressing yourself, expressing your creativity. You become more creative with your work, more creative with your creation, and more creative with your solutions. Like you can think outside of the box and then provide some kind of solutions. And fifth house, like I said, rules education, particularly for teenagers. So if you're a teacher in the high school, or if your work is involved with teenagers or education in any way, your work will be appreciated and your relationship with your students and followers will be pleasant. Fifth house also rules like speculative business. So if you work for yourself or if you have your own business, Jupiter will bring some opportunities and growth to your business. And fifth house is a house of fun and pleasure. Overall, you enjoy life more, and there will be more like social gatherings, events, and parties to enjoy. Jupiter transits fifth house is looking at 11th house. So again, you will enjoy good times with your friends, large gatherings, like community life, and your friends and benefactors will bring you some support. Maybe your elderly siblings can also be a benefactor to you. There are definitely opportunities to expand your network circles. And 11th house rules long-term dreams and goals, and you can receive recognition for your work because it's a second from 10th. So promotion, titles, and pay rise are very possible. And afterwards, Jupiter will move through your sixth house from mid-May, and it will stay there for a year until 2024. Sixth house rules work. And during this transits, you might start to do something expensive with your job, which is good. But at the same time, it can also increase more work duties, responsibilities, and potentially high level of stress and competition because sixth house rules competition. And as I mentioned earlier, when Saturn transit in the fourth house is also looking at the 10th house for you, Sagittarius. So there will be increased workload and responsibilities. So you have like a double indication for more workload, responsibilities. And sixth house is Mercury's house of details and analysis. So there might be more work that requires attention to details, making sure everything runs smoothly and lots of organizing, checking, planning. And if you're looking for a new job, Jupiter transit in the sixth house can also help you to find a job that you feel more comfortable in, a job that you feel more suitable for. But sixth house rules more like difficult things like disagreements, arguments, conflicts, accusation, and imbalanced situation. Also competition. And Jupiter gives more. So you can expect quite a lot going on during this transits, like different things, different factors coming up suddenly and need resolving. So it feels like there are endless problems to solve, endless conflicts, and you might even get sick because the level of stress. And Jupiter is not very strong in the sign of Taurus because Jupiter and Venus, they are enemies. Venus is enemy to Jupiter. And Jupiter is not doing well in Mercury's house because Mercury is also an enemy to Jupiter. So Jupiter is actually not very strong in the sign of Taurus as well in 6th house. So the situation, the conflict situation or difficult situations may not be alleviated by the help of Jupiter. Instead, you might, if you have any arguments or conflicts, the situation will very likely stay the same because Saturn transit in the 4th house is sending the influence to the 6th house. And Saturn slows down the process of resolution. So you might not come to the common ground. You might not find a solution very quickly because Saturn is sending the influence to the 6th house. So the things that trouble you will still keep you on your toes. And it can be quite difficult for you to relax during this transit. So it's very important for you to pay attention to your health because the high level of stress can also make you vulnerable to illness. And watch out your stress level and watch your eating because Jupiter is moving through the house of gut, digestive system. So Jupiter is looking at 2nd house. Jupiter transits in the 6th house is looking at the 2nd house. 2nd house rules the foods that we put into our mouth. So you really need to watch out your eating habits. Watch out overeating, comfort eating, or stress eating, and pay attention to any habits that can cause trouble for your health. Now, Capricorn. Capricorn rising or Capricorn moon. Saturn will transit your 3rd house from March and will stay there until 2026. And Jupiter will move through your 4th house from December, like right now, and will stay there for 5 months until mid-May. And from mid-May, Jupiter will move into your 5th house and will stay there for a year. So Saturn transit in the 3rd house brings delays, extra work, blocks, and it also brings structure, order, discipline, and maturity in the 3rd house topics. For example, like a communication, business activities, sales, marketing, skills learning, teamwork, and how you present your information, teaching. And so it might bring some challenges and obstacles in those areas, as well as your relationship with your teammates. So under this transit, you might feel like you can't express yourself the way you want. Somehow you feel like your words are stuck, and you might feel like not understood because the words are stuck, and also there's some miscommunication. And it could be that the outer circumstances make you cautious with your words. For example, maybe you are in a position that you need to speak in public more. So there's no room for mistakes, or you need to present specific knowledge, or it could be that you're in the managerial level, so you need to speak properly. And it could also be that you're surrounded by like well-spoken people. So you feel like you need to improve your communication. And when Saturn transits in the 3rd house, the block can come from the inside because the 3rd house rules our mind, mental process. So Saturn can bring some block and negativity to the thoughts. And there's a tendency that you can be too hard on yourself, like very judgmental of yourself. And whether this unable to communicate is coming from the inside, your thoughts, or from the outside because the circumstances change, it creates a sense of frustration because you're not able to communicate the way you want. And it feels like you need to learn to communicate again. And but Saturn brings order, structure, and also maturity. So by the end of the transits, your communication skill will improve, become more structured and mature. And if you're in the professional fields that are related to teaching, speaking, training, presenting information, emailing, or any sort of like communication, media communication, sales, you will feel the challenge the most. And Saturn is the significator of work and responsibilities. Third house rules teamwork, teammates. So you will probably need to take on more responsibilities for your teammates. And Saturn can also bring some challenges, situations, and tests to the relationship with your teammates. For example, perhaps your teammates are dealing with some kind of trouble, so they need your help, need your support. Or there might be a lot of like last minute changes within your team, or situations where you need to cover their work. And it could also manifest that you working with team members that are more like rigid-minded or traditional-minded during this transit. And during this transit, expect some long dragging process in publishing or media communication. They will also be more long and delayed meetings, messaging, emailing, or writing reports, or writing a book, or writing your business presentation. And the administrative process is long and slow. So if you're planning, and also if you're planning some kind of conference, workshops, or seminars, it can take a longer time. So when Saturn transit the third house, it really requires now Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon. So Saturn will transit your third house from March 2023, and then will stay there until February 2026. And Jupiter will move through your fourth house from December, like now, 21st of December, and it will stay there for 5 months until mid-May in 2023. And afterwards, Jupiter will move through your fifth house from mid-May and will stay there for 1 year until 2024. So start with Saturn. So Saturn transit into your third house brings delays, extra work, and blocks. But it also brings structure, order, discipline, and maturity in the third house topics. For example, like communication, business activities, sales, marketing, skills, learning, teamwork, and how you present information, teaching. It might bring some challenges in the relationship with your teammates. So under this transit, you might feel you can't express yourself the way you want. Somehow it feels like the words are stuck, and you might feel like you're not understood. It could be miscommunication, or it could be coming from the inside, like from your mind. You feel like you can't express yourself correctly and people don't understand you. Or outer circumstances make you cautious with your communication, with your words. Perhaps it's because you are in a new position that needs to speak in the public more, so no room for mistakes. Or you need to present specific knowledge, so they have like specific terminology. And it could also be that you're in the managerial level, so you need to speak proper, or you're surrounded with well-spoken people, so you feel like you need to upgrade, you need to improve your communication. So those are the circumstances can make you feel like you can't express yourself well, and then you need to like learn to speak again. And the third house rules what we think, our mental process. So when Saturn transit in the third house, it can, the block can come from the inside. Saturn can bring some negativity and also some blockages into your thoughts. So you feel like you can't do this, you can't do that. And there might be more doubts and fears. And there's also a tendency for you to be too hard on yourself. So pay attention to that. And if you're in the professional fields that are related to teaching, training, presenting information, speaking, writing, documenting, emailing or paperwork, or media communication, sales, or any kind of job that requires communication, you will feel the challenge the most, especially in the beginning of the transit. And Saturn is the significator of work and responsibilities. Third house rules teamwork, teammates. So Saturn can bring some challenges, obstacles, and tests to your relationship with your teammates. And you might need to take on more responsibilities for your teammates. For example, perhaps your teammates are dealing with some kind of trouble, so they need your support, or some last minute changes. So you need to reschedule and rearrange things, or situations where you need to cover their work. You could be working with team members that are more rigid-minded or narrow-minded during this transit as well. During this transits, there can be more like long dragging process in publishing or media communication. There will also be more long and delayed meetings like messaging, emailing, reporting, writing. For example, if you're writing a book, writing reports, writing business presentations, and so on, it takes longer time. And the administrative process is long and slow, especially if you have some kind of work that needs to go through that process. And if you are planning conference or seminars or workshops, it can also take a longer time to plan and schedule. When Saturn moves through the third house, it requires more patience, perseverance, and extra work in those areas. It's a good time if you want commit to mastering some skills, because third house is to do with the mental process. So any information, any training, any skill that you want to take that's more systematic, requires more mental work, it's actually quite suitable. And third house rules the mind, what we think every day. And Saturn is a difficult planet, and it has this cold, depressing effect. So Capricorn might be prone to negative thinking and during this transits, especially Capricorn rising are naturally, quite cautious and have more doubts and fears. So when Saturn transit in the third house, it can amplify this trait. So it's very important for you to watch your thoughts, watch your mind. Try not to be so hard on yourself, and surround yourself with uplifting information and uplifting people. And if you have any practice that can uplift your spirit, it's good. Now, Jupiter will move through your fourth house from December this year, 21st of December, 2022, and it will stay there until mid-May 2023, so 5 months time. And Jupiter is in its own sign in Pisces and moving into angular house. So it makes Jupiter is extremely strong, unless there are some other afflictions. So it really depends on your whole chart. But fourth house rules our emotional well-being, how safe we feel in this incarnation, in the world. It's our private world. So in the next few months, 5 months time, you will feel more secure in who you are. And you have this inner sense of stability and confidence. So this is a very, very supportive transit in regards to your psychology. And on the more mundane level, you might get benefits and help from your family, especially from the mother's side, because in Vedic astrology, fourth house is the mother. You might inherit some property, land, or garden, or some kind of wealth during this transit. So good things can also happen to your family or to your parents, especially your mother. And Jupiter can also bring some luck, expansion, positive developments to the family, to the life of your family. It can also bring some luck and blessings to your place of living, your domestic environment. And homeland is actually treating you well during this transit. So if you're doing business in your homeland, or if you're doing business with people from your home country, it can be very supportive. Or simply just stay in your homeland during these transits is very nurturing. Fourth house also rules house, property, garden, home, cars, like vehicles. And Jupiter can also bring luck, expansion in those areas. So if you're looking for a house, you'll be able to find a place that you're happy with. And if you're a landlord, you are able to find a good tenants and receive good rent. And Jupiter brings expansion and growth. When it comes to the fourth house, it can also mean growth of home, growth of family. For example, buying a bigger house, buying a new house, new property, buying a bigger car, fancier car, or upgrading your vehicles. And it can also mean the expansion of your family, like someone gets married during this transit or have a baby during this transit. So for example, my partner, he has Jupiter transit in his fourth house earlier this year, 2022. So his niece got married recently while Jupiter is transiting his fourth house. So expansion of his family. And my partner is also a landlord. So his house is just being upgraded so he can rent out at a better price. So things like this, you can expect some kind of blessings in fourth house matters. And if you're a professional field that's related to real estate, property, or home-related business, home-related careers, or if you have your business based in your home or you work from home, this transit can be very supportive for you. Then afterwards, Jupiter will transit through fifth house from mid-May 2023, and it will stay there for 1 year until 2024. In Vedic astrology, each planet has their significant house, and Jupiter's key house is the seventh house, because seventh house is the house that you co-create something with someone. You create your dynasty, you create your legacy, you can leave behind. So that's why Jupiter's key house is the seventh house. And when Jupiter passed through the seventh house, that's when the cycle starts. And then it goes through all the houses, then it reaches 11th house from the seventh house cusp. And usually it's a fifth house. So for Capricorn rising, if you're having your Jupiter transit in the fifth house, 11 from the 7, it's usually the reward position. Because in Vedic astrology, this is a very unique technique. 11 from the key house, usually it brings reward, relates to the house. So when Jupiter transit in the fifth house, it brings blessings, reward towards your creation, something you've been wanting to create or you've been working on, like you've been recreating. When Jupiter transit the fifth house, the reward can be manifested in many ways. Like one of the possibilities is that you can meet someone during this transit. Usually it can be your husband for woman, because Jupiter signifies the husband in woman's chart. And if you do meet someone during this transit, chances are this person is going to be more significant because they are going to be part of the legacy, the empire that you want to create and leave behind. And oftentimes you create children together, but it can also be that two people coming together as a power couple and creating something long lasting. So for example, I actually met my partner when Jupiter transits my fifth house. So yeah, for Capricorn rising, you might meet someone that, you know, this person might be very important, being part of the creation. And the reward period of Jupiter's cycle only happens like once every 12 years. So when Jupiter transits in the fifth house, that happens only once every 12 years. And for Capricorn rising, this will last for a year. So really enjoy it. And other things about Jupiter transit in the fifth house is that fifth house rules our creative intelligence. And you will feel more free and confident in your creative expression. You become more creative with your ideas, your creation, even your ability to solve problems. Because when we're human beings in this lifetime is to create, whether you're creating babies, creating food, or thinking outside of the box to create solutions for problems. We're always using our creativity. So you will be more creative during this transit. But because Saturn transit in the third house is also looking at the fifth house, it's also sending the influence to the fifth house. And it can bring some delays, challenges, or obstacles in your creative process, in your creative expression as well. And fifth house also rules fun and pleasure in life. But because, like I said, Saturn transit in the third house is also shooting the influence to the fifth house. So there might be more work, more responsibilities, and less fun, less social life. Particularly if you work in education, celebrity circles, politicians or political circles, fashion, or any creative related fields, art, performance, you will feel there's some delay, obstacles. Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon. So Saturn will travel through the second house from March 2023 and it will stay there until February 2026, so almost 3 years time. And Jupiter will move through the third house from December 21st of December 2022, and it will stay there for 5 months until mid-May in 2023. And afterwards, Jupiter will travel through your fourth house from mid-May 2023, and it will stay there for 1 year. So start with Saturn. Saturn transits in the house usually makes us take things more seriously in the area of life, more disciplined, more commitments, and more efforts to make. And Saturn also brings structure, restrictions, challenges to matters that are related to the second house. So when Saturn transit in the second house, the money situation will be challenged and become more restricted. But don't be nervous. It could be that the outer circumstances naturally make the financial situation restricted. Perhaps you just moved to a new city, moved to a new country, or maybe you just bought a new car, a new house. So you need to be more careful with your money situation, with your spending. And it could also be that you decide to take a sabbatical year, so you don't have income naturally, or you start an internship, or maybe your money is tied in with investments. You get penalty if you touch the money before the agreed time. And that's why you don't have a lot of cash flow to utilize during this transit. And it could also be that you lose some money with your investments. So you need to be more careful with your money. And it could also be that you consciously restrict or control your money, your spending. Perhaps you're saving up for something big. For example, buying a house. And some people, they can actually save more during this transit because the attitude towards money becomes more conservative, restricted. They fear that they might not have enough. So they end up saving more. And second house also rules resources, any kind of resources like food, support, people, material, resources. And these kind of things might be less available for you during this time, like lack of resources, lack of materials, lack of certain ingredients in your pantry. So you need to learn to work with what you have at hand, or also readjust your thinking. When Saturn transits the second house, it's not like you're going to become poor, but life circumstances would definitely make you more aware of money and how you use your money. And Saturn is almost about like structure and order and taking things in a practical and realistic fashion. So by the end of the transits, you will become more efficient and better with your financial situation. Like you become better manage your finances and become more realistic about your money. But if you're the type of person who spends money recklessly, then you will feel quite tough in the beginning of the transits, definitely. So hopefully this reading can give you some heads up, mentally prepare you for what to expect, so you know how to cope with it. On the psychological level, Saturn transits in the second house, it can create more fear and this lack mentality during this transit. So you might become overly worried about your money situation, and you can become more penny pinching or try to hoard possessions or hoard money, items, and everything. So pay attention to the hoarding behavior. And Saturn has this shrinking, reducing, like a cold effect energy. So during this transit, you might also want to downsize or get rid of things, like more minimalistic. For example, my partner, when he had Saturn transit in the second house, he got rid of a lot of things. He got rid of lots of shoes, clothes, beddings, old furniture, and food. The second house also rules the food that we put in our mouth. And so Saturn transit in the second house is actually not a bad position, because second house is a Venus ruled position, Venus ruled house. And Venus is a friend of Saturn. So the final result of this transit will be manifest in an elegant, constructive fashion. And when Saturn transit in the second house, it's also looking at fourth house, eighth house, and 11th house. So fourth house is to do with properties, home, and stuff. And eighth house is to do with the money. 11th house, another house of money. So quite a lot of money going on here, like money-centric topics. Fourth house is to do with the house, to do with the properties, home, domestic environments, living condition. And when Saturn transit in the second house, also shooting the influence to the fourth house, it can mean it brings some stress, delays, challenges in those areas, in those topics, especially if you have investments that's tied in with real estate, tie in with buildings, constructions, or if you work in home-related business, professional fields, like home staging or interior design or something like that. Or if you're owner of a property, or if you're looking to buy a house, or if you're looking to buy a vehicle, somehow your money is tied in with fourth house matters, then you need to be careful with your money. Because if you have some kind of constructional issues at home, any kind of delays can, it can actually cost you more money. So pay attention to that. And eighth house is somebody else's money, your spouse's money, your business partner's money, other people's resources, your joint resources with your spouse or with your partner, business partner. So when Saturn transits the second house, looking at the eighth house, second and eighth house, it's a money axis. So naturally, there will be some money discussion or situations revolving around money. 11th house, Saturn transit the second house is also looking at 11th house. So another money-making houses, gains, marketplace, achieving your material goals. So yeah, it's quite money-centric situation. And Saturn can create some delays and obstacles, challenges in those areas. But like I said, Saturn transit in the second house is not going to make you poor. But you would definitely feel stressed and worried and frustrated because it's about money and resources. But ultimately, the goal of this transit is to make you more structured, organized, practical about how you spend your money, what you do with your money, and you will manage your finances and resources more wisely. Jupiter will stay in your third house from now, like 21st of December, and will stay there until mid-May 2023, so 5 months time. Third house is the business house. So Jupiter gives many and brings expansion to things that are related to third house. So there will be more communication, more meetings, conversations, planning, arranging things to happen, paperwork, administrative tasks, more short distance travels, or your schedule will be busier during this transit. And on the plus side, it also brings multiple business opportunities to you because third house rules any kind of business activities, transactions. And when Jupiter transits in the third house, it produces benefits in all aspects of business. For example, sales, marketing, advertising, public relations, social media communication, or starting your business projects. So you can expect like many promotional events, preaching, selling ideas, talking to people, seminars, workshops, lots of opportunities for teaching, training, and opportunities for business collaborations. And if you're in the media industry, more opportunities for example, like photographs, filming, editing, podcasts, radio, television, or different media platforms. And if you're working with your hands, because third house rules our hands, so painting or makeup artists, bakers, with your hands, you're making food. If you're tattooists or nail artists, there will be more work, opportunities, and business as well. Third house rules teammates, teamwork. There will be more opportunities to work with other people, work with others, exchange ideas, and the relationship with your teammates will be improved during this transit. Third house also rules skills and learning. So you'll be inspired to learn something new, some new skills, some new information. And you'll be more curious about many different things, but not in depth, because third house is not like in depth or taking your idea or learning to a higher level. It's more like broad interests in many different things. Third house also rules the mental process. Your mind becomes more optimistic and positive. You can use this time to plan things that you want to manifest, plan the projects, arrange meetings with benefactors or with friends that they can help you with your career. Then Jupiter will move through fourth house from mid-May 2023 and will stay there for 1 year. And Jupiter is a planet of higher wisdom. It brings expansion and luck. So fourth house rules our emotional well-being, how safe we feel in this incarnation in the world. So it rules our private world. So during this transit, you will feel secure in who you are. And you have this inner sense of stability and confidence. It's a very supportive transit in regards to your psychology. On the more mundane level, you can expect joy and comfort from your home, your family, or place of living, even though there might be something troubles you in your family or in the domestic environments, because Saturn transit in the second house is also looking at the fourth house. So it shoots the influence to the fourth house. It creates some kind of trouble, obstacles, and delays in regards to the fourth house matters. But overall, you will still be able to enjoy and get nourished from your family or from your place of living. Fourth house rules home, lands, property, farms, cars, vehicles, bicycles, any type of vehicles. And Jupiter can bring some blessings in those areas. So if you're looking for a house, if you're looking to buy a car, you will be able to find the one that you're happy with. But bear in mind the luck and also the blessing that Jupiter brings to the fourth house will be reduced, because Saturn transit in the second house is also looking at the fourth house. It shoots the influence to the fourth house. So you may not feel 100% lucky with fourth house matters. And there might be some issues, hassle, challenges regarding fourth house matters. Especially earlier, I mentioned that if your money is tying, or if your investment is tying with home, real estate, lands, and everything, and if you need to fix your home, if you're doing renovation, reconstruction, delays can create more problems. Like it can cost you more money because it takes longer time. So pay attention to that. And if you're a landlord, there might be requirements to replace some items, something like that. So some hassles that you have to deal with. And there will still be some stressful and challenging situations in regards to fourth house matters. So not everything is smooth sailing when Jupiter transits in the fourth house, because Saturn is also shooting the influence to that. Pisces moon, Pisces rising. Saturn will travel through your first house from March and will stay there until February 2026, so almost 3 years' time. And Jupiter will move through your second house from December now, 2022, and will stay there for 5 months until mid-May 2023. And from mid-May, Jupiter will travel through your third house and will stay there for 1 year. So start with Saturn. Saturn transit the first house is a very important transit because in Vedic astrology, when planets cross the ascendant, cross the first house and goes retrogrades, that makes this planet is extremely important during its transits. And you can refer back to the beginning that I introduced why. But now when it comes to Saturn transit in the first house, the agenda that Saturn is going to bring is time. The lesson you're going to learn is time. Saturn will make you more aware of time, make you more conscious about time. It's more like you be more conscious about time that you have available for you to do the things that you truly love, so you don't waste time. It sounds very vague and very difficult to grasp, is because we don't usually experience, we don't think about time. And when we do think about time, is because we are running out of time. So you experience time on a deeper level. And usually when people have Saturn transit in the first house, they will go into situations where a lot of their time is being taken away by the things they don't even want to do. It could be work, it could be kids, it could be anything, or parents. And somehow they just cannot get away from those burdens, those responsibilities. So the few minutes that they have for themselves becomes extremely important, becomes extremely precious. And through that, they start to realize what's really important in their lives and what are their priorities in life. Then they learn how to use their time productively and do things that really matters to them. And sometimes in a more severe way, you realize that you don't have much time is through sickness. You get ill, and situations make you have more fear for your longevity. You feel like you don't have time, you're running out of time. So that's another way of appreciating the time you have for yourself and using it more productively and wisely. For example, when I had Saturn transit in my first house, I got a job in a media marketing company. It was my first job when I graduated. So lots of details to pay attention to and lots of meetings, writing marketing plans, communication, doing all the work that the supervisor didn't want to do. And I worked overtime every day and didn't have time for lunch. And I also worked on weekends. So basically, if you're working in the marketing field, it's like a super fast-paced industry. And you're literally chased by deadlines after deadlines, and everything needs to be done by the end of the day. But after Saturn transits of 2 years, so up until now, I can be quite confident to say that my time management is very efficient. I have learned to deliver my work under high level stress of time, and also try to schedule everything ahead of the time and use every spare moment to do like really important things in my life. And another example is my partner has applied for master degree. So while he's still working, so it's a 3 years program. And that's also this also corresponds to how long that Saturn transit, that period of time. So it's very interesting. And so so basically he had a full-time job, and when he's off, he needed to read every day after work. On top of that, he had to prepare his teachings and some administrative task. He's a teacher. And every 3 weeks, he needed to write a few thousand words of dissertation. And on top of that, because we are in a relationship, so he needs to give me some attention. So in the first 2 years of that program, the master degree, he was really like in hell, like he was pressured with time, with work, and with writing. And he was struggling with time management. But by the final year of the master degree, the program, it actually happened to be his final dissertation writing. So there was still some stress and pressure, but he actually managed quite well. So I hope these 2 examples can give you some ideas what to expect when Pisces, when you have Saturn transit in the first house. Usually you will experience something that your time is taken away. And there will be some kind of heavy duties and responsibilities that take a lot of your time, and some difficult experiences where you feel like your time is being robbed and you feel pressure for time and you only have so much time to do important things. So time management, using time effectively, productively, and also focusing on what's really important in your life is very important, and using the time that you have to do it anyway is the key lesson when Saturn transits in the first house. It's not going to be easy because it will be a lot of work, a lot of pressure, but tremendous growth on your life path. So very important transit for Pisces, because usually Saturn will transit our ascendant 2 or 3 times, especially the third time we will become very, very old in our 70s or 80s. So it becomes a serious reminder that time is running out. Another thing that you need to pay attention to when Saturn transits the first house is your health, because first house rules our vitality, our body. So you might also notice that you don't have the same energy level, like moving around, being active. So pay attention to your physical health and also your energy level. And you might also feel like you're restricted by your body or your movement. So pay attention to your bones, joints, knees, muscular structure. They might become more sensitive during this time. Overall, Saturn transit in the first house, because it's an angular house, it's not a bad position. It brings delays, challenges, and limitation. But because it's on your first house, you'll feel it quite strongly. And as long as you follow Saturn's rules, like making extra efforts, repeated efforts, perseverance, hard work, and patience, then you will be fine. Success usually will come after this transit, because during the transit, it's a period of effort. Jupiter will transit in your second house from 21st of December and will stay here for 5 months until mid-May in 2023. Jupiter brings expansion, growth, luck, and blessings. And when it comes to the house of money, so Jupiter brings a lot of opportunities to secure and boost your financial situation. It could bring new opportunities for investments, better investment plan, or better interests. And you feel more prosperous, secure. There will be more resources available for you when you need it, like, for example, cash flow, benefactors, people, materials, ingredients, and so on, for you to utilize. And this will help you to approach your goals closer. So financial improvements, investments, improvements is possible during this transit. And Jupiter is the higher wisdom, higher mind. It helps you to see bigger picture. It makes you better manage your assets, investments, accumulated wealth, material possessions. And even if there's no big improvement when it comes to your money situation, you will still feel safe and secure with your resources and with your money situation. And second house also rules possessions. You might receive gifts during this time, and you can also spend more money on possessions, valuable goods, valuable items, or invest in something that will bring you more value in the future. For example, gold, silver, antiques, or knowledge, and so on. And Jupiter rules gurus and teachers, advisors. So you could also gain some really good financial advice during this transit, or someone introduce a great investment opportunity to you. Then Jupiter will move through your third house from mid-May 2023 and will stay there for 1 year. Third house is the busiest house. Jupiter gives many in the house that it's in. It brings growth to the things that are related to your third house. So there will be more communication, meetings, emailing, conversations, planning, scheduling, arranging things, more paperwork, administrative tasks, more opportunities to teach or to present your idea, present your presentation, present your knowledge, more trainings. and you will have more work, like responsibilities in those areas as well. Because Saturn transits in the first house is also looking at the third house. So it brings more obstacles, duties, and responsibilities in the third house. And there might be more short distance travels, like travel to neighborhood, travel to neighbor countries, or many road trips. And your schedule will be busier during this transits. When Jupiter transit the third house, it brings benefits to all aspects of business activities like sales, marketing, advertising, public relations, social media, publication. If you're working in those areas, it could go well. But at the same time, because Saturn transit in the first house is also shooting the influence to the third house. So expect some delays in progress. Maybe you're trying to establish some kind of business projects, but it might take longer time and also more challenges to overcome. And if you do want to start your own business, Saturn transit in the first house, shooting the influence to the third house, you may want to move slowly towards that direction. Like think carefully and plan thoroughly. Third house rules teammates, teamwork. So there might be more opportunities to work with others and more team efforts. Aries rising, Aries moon. So Saturn will transit through your 12th house from March 2023, and it will stay there until February 2026, so almost 3 years time. And Jupiter will move through your first house from December 2022 and will stay there until mid-May in 2023, so 5 months time. And then afterwards, Jupiter will transit into your second house and will stay there for 1 year. So I like to start with Jupiter. Jupiter will enter into your first house from December to mid-May. December now, like 21st of December 2022, and it will stay there until mid-May in 2023, 5 months time. Jupiter transit in the first house is a very, very important transit, because in Vedic astrology, wherever a planet crosses the ascendant and goes retrogrades becomes really, really important. That makes these planets and also the transits is extremely significant for your life path, for your growth. When people have a Jupiter transit the first house, the major experience they're going to have is expansion. And this expansion could happen in 3 different areas, like your money, wisdom, and happiness, because Jupiter is the significator of money, happiness, and wisdom. So the experience during this transit is not necessarily exclusive. It can also happen in 3 these areas at the same time. During the transits, one of the key things that you're going to experience is money. And it could be some positive developments in your money situation. And it could also be that you start earning money. Perhaps you start making your money for the first time, or you start making more money with your business. And perhaps it could be that you finally pay off your debt. And usually when we have some money, it truly opens us out to possibilities because we have more leverage. We have this freedom to explore, to learn, to grow. And, because sadly, this world, everything costs money. If you want to see your guru, if you want to do some healing, if you want to learn, they all cost money. So when we do have some money, it really opens us out to all the great possibilities that are awaiting in front of us. So that's exactly what Jupiter does. It expands us. But sometimes when Jupiter transit the first house can also bring some financial struggles, financial pressure, and that is because Jupiter wants you to reflect on how you use your money, what you need to do with your money, and learn to use your money wisely. So whether you have a positive development in your money situation during this transit, or you have a struggle one, ultimately, Jupiter wants to show you the bigger lesson, like your belief about money, your value for money, and the relationship between happiness and money. So it's not just about bringing, expansion to your money situation. That's it. It's because Jupiter is a significator of wealth. Whatever it does, it wants to bring some meaning and purpose and wisdom to it. And another manifestation when Jupiter transits the first house, it could happen is that you can meet someone who has a profound impact on you, like a teacher, guru, advisor, or it could be a book, it could be a talk, it could be a video, or someone who helps you to, understand things or look at things from a different perspective. So it's very important transit for Aries rising. And other things when it comes to Jupiter transits the first house is that first house rules you, your confidence. So it can increase your self-confidence level, how you feel about yourself, how you envision about your life, your future. You become more positive, optimistic about the path you're on. It brings inspirations about where you want to go, what you want to do, and also who you like to become. You receive more opportunities to direct you on the path that will bring you more happiness. And when Jupiter transits in the first house, opportunities for new career can present itself. Or if you've been trying to, start some projects, business projects, and have some difficulties, now is a good time, and you will feel more confident in what you're doing. So this is a very good time for business development. And you will also be inspired to travel during this transit, to see the world, to explore different cultures. First house rules the body. So there will be good luck in your health, in your body. And Jupiter brings more prana, life force to your body. So you will have more energy. Then back to Saturn. So we jump back to Saturn because Saturn will travel through your 12th house from March 2023. So there will be a little bit of overlapping when Jupiter transits your first house. At the same time, Jupiter will stay in your 12th house a few months. So there will be a few months overlapping time. And 12th house is another important house. Any planets that transits the 12th house is very important. We mentioned earlier, when planets transit the first house, the planet is going to make you, shape you, and develop you. So when planets move through the 12th house, that's when we get our fulfillment, conclusion, and finishing things, finishing business that are related to the planets, which is Saturn for you in this case. So you have beginning and ending happening at the same time. This is a major transition for Aries. And 12th house rules like losses and expenditure. But in Vedic astrology also rules, one of the interesting things is it rules our last desire. It's like the last desire that you gain or fulfill before you move on to the next level, which is the first house. And by fulfilling that desire, you get a sense of peace, sense of equanimity. So you can finally let go of things that are related to the planets, related to Saturn, and move on to the next level. And that's the higher manifestation of 12th house, to have a peace with that, to have a peace with your lessons with Saturn, to have peace with desires that are related to Saturn. And Saturn is to do with material achievements, responsibilities, financial burdens. It could be debt and material hardship in life and stress from life. And Saturn also represents health, because Saturn is a significator of 6th house, so it rules health in Vedic astrology. So these are the topics that you're going to experience when Saturn transits in the 12th house. You might have a conclusion with those topics. You might have a fulfillment with those conclusions, or you might have to suffer with those topics. Which one is which? It really depends on your whole chart. But you will notice some health issues during the transits, especially if you haven't been taking care of your body, if you haven't been, taking care of your health, ignoring your health. When Saturn transits in the 2nd house, you might suffer from lack of energy, you might suffer from bad health, or you have a hard time managing your health. So you realize that you need to restructure, rebuild your body, your health. And Saturn also represents like material achievements, and it also rules the work. So if you've been working hard, doing things step by step, persevering, when Saturn transits in your 12th house, it will give you the resolution, fulfillment to those material problems. For example, you might finally pay off your debts, or you finally reach the status that you always wanted. It gives you this sense of fulfillment. Or you finally achieve all the material achievements. Now you can finally retire and let go of all the worldly responsibilities. On the other hand, if you haven't been working on or learning Saturn's lessons, and also if you have a afflicted Saturn in your chart, when Saturn transits in the 12th house, you can get into more stress and struggle in life. For example, like financial burdens, material burdens, or maybe get into debt or trouble with your achievements, health, and so on. Like I said, the 12th house acts like the last desire. So either you enjoy it, relax, and move on, or you suffer more and you just want to get rid of those things. For example, like achieve certain kind of social status might be, the things that you really want to achieve. But if you haven't been working towards that direction, if you haven't been following Saturn's rules, and if you have an afflicted Saturn in your chart, you might not find achieving your material status is very good for you. You might just want to get rid of that. Things like that can happen. And career-wise, Saturn transit in the 12th house can create some blocks in your imagination. So if you're an artist, or if your work requires imagination, like filming, writing, painting, creative activities, or anything that brings the imagination to life, you'll feel the most. But if you work in the research field, in the lab, or something to do with the subconscious mind, your work and the research will become more structured and systematic, even though the process might slow down, but it will be produced in a more careful and regulated manner. So that's the benefits when Saturn transits in the 12th house if you work in those professional fields. Charitable service, non-profit organization, or multinational companies will also go well during this transit, but still there will be some delays. And Saturn rules karma. It rules, karma in the spiritual term, and on the mundane level, karma means your actions, the actions that we take. So when it transits the second house, it's good to do seva. Seva is a Sanskrit word. It means selfless activities, selfless service. So this is a good time to offer your service to the world, your charitable action towards the society. You may want to volunteer in a charity or animal rescue center. And when Saturn transits the 12th house, is also good for you if you want to take a sabbatical year. So for example, one of my good friends, she's Aries rising, and then it's very interesting that she's actually taking a sabbatical year in 2023, and she's always wanted to travel the world, to see the world, and she never traveled alone before. So this is like a really bold move for her. And she's been spending like 10 plus years pursuing material achievement and security. So this is a very different step for her to do. And she wants to, because Jupiter is also in the first house. So she wants to explore the world and discover who she is, her interests, and also her life mission. So it really corresponds to what I mentioned earlier, like Jupiter transit in the first house, indicating travels, expansion in knowledge, and also your self-discovery. So Aries, this is a big year as you have Jupiter transit in the first house for the next 5 months, and followed by Saturn transit in the 12th house immediately. So you literally have beginning and ending going on at the same time. It's a major transition. And as Jupiter brings this expansion and then comes with contraction, with Saturn brings for almost 3 years time. So it's like you're having a celebration of life, then come to the point. I can't say it's drop, but it comes to the point where you need to learn to let go and go within introspect about your life and also let go of certain ideas, certain things in regards to Saturn's lessons and the things that Saturn rules. So it can be quite tough because you're coming from high points like celebration of life and coming to, contraction. But just like any spiritual development, every expansion comes with contraction. It is when we're in this contraction stage, we integrate and complete and learn more our lessons. So I wish all Aries have an easy process. If not, I wish that you could meet your gurus who can guide you through this process. Now, Taurus rising, Taurus moon. Saturn will travel through 11th house from March 2023, and it will stay there until February 2026, so 3 years' time. And Jupiter will move through your 12th house from December 2022, and then will stay there for 5 months' time until mid-May 2023. And afterwards, Jupiter will move into your first house and will stay there for 1 year until 2024. So 11th house is Saturn's house. Even though Saturn brings delays, challenges, extra responsibilities during this transit, but the final results that Saturn brings, it will manifest in the positive results. And 11th house rules gains, money-making, recognition, titles, and trophies. It also rules long-term dreams and goals, network circles, marketplace, elderly siblings, and communities, social movements. So during this transit, it requires extra work and repeated efforts and patience working towards your goal, your long-term dreams and goals. And you will also need to follow Saturn's rules, like doing things step by step in a lawful abiding way, perseverance and patience. And bear in mind, when Saturn transits in the house, it's a period of effort. So you will only receive your recognition, reach your goals by the end of the transit, because Saturn also brings delays, so that's why. So recognition, titles, and honor are possible. It's just not that fast. Be patient. And if you're in the business field or doing any kind of business activities during this transit, there might be more regulations or rules from the government or from the community, and which can slow down the speed of making money, or you might need to work through the hustle to meet those demands. But as long as you follow Saturn's rules, as long as you follow rules, not cutting corners, Saturn transit in the 11th house will be very supportive with your efforts. And similarly, if you're working in a big organization, social movement, or in a community setting, your work requires networking, or if you're in the marketplace, or if you're in a distributed system, there might be extra work responsibilities and duties in those professional fields. In general, setting a goal, reaching a goal, making money, expanding your network circles will still be supportive during this transit, but the process might be long and slow and delayed, and in a more regulated manner. And Saturn is a practical, realistic planet. So when it transits in the 11th house, it brings a reality check to your long-term dreams and goals. So you may readjust your focus, like you focus on what's really matter to you, what's really important to you, and get rid of those unrealistic ones, which can make you extremely productive on your path. And 11th house rules friends, because Saturn brings more duties and responsibilities and work. So you might not have no time for your friends. And also Saturn can also have this separating factor. So during this transits, you can be temporarily separated from your friends. Overall, just like I said, the recognition, titles, pay rise, promotion can be delayed during this transits. In a way, it means that your paycheck, your money remains the same, but the work responsibilities, duties become heavier. But it's only temporary. So by the end of the transits, you will reap your rewards. So be patient. Now, Jupiter will move through the 12th house from December 2022 and it will stay there until mid-May in 2023, so 5 months time. 12th house is another important house. Any planets transit the 12th house is very, very important. As we mentioned earlier, when planets transit the first house, it is a time when the planet's trying to make you, develop you. But when the planets transit the 12th house, it is when we get rid of, we actually get our gifts from the planets, which is Jupiter. You will get the gifts that's related to Jupiter. It could be a realization, it could be conclusion, it could be closure or finishing the business that's related to Jupiter. And in Vedic astrology, one of the interesting things about 12th house is it represents our last desires. So it's like the last desire that you gain or fulfill before you move on to the next level, which is the first house. So how are you going to end this with Jupiter? So when Jupiter transits the 12th house, Jupiter can give you the satisfaction of getting the final realization of Jupiterian things, or you can get a gift that's related to Jupiter. And it can also be the time when you complete something that Jupiter represents. You finish the business that's Jupiter represents. For example, children, gurus, guruhood, your relationship with your teacher, spirituality, religion, wealth, or your husband. So you might want to get rid of your husband. It really depends on your whole chart. But these are Jupiterian things. Either you have a conclusion, either you have gifts from Jupiter from those things, or you just want to get rid of them. For example, you might finally have a kid after many years of trying, or you could be done with having children because you have 3 kids and the family that you want. So you are complete in that area. Or it could be that you finally meet your spiritual teacher that you've been longing for. Or it could be that your relationship with your particular spiritual guru comes to an end. So yeah, topics like gurus, teachers, wealth, spirituality, religion, and husbands, particularly in women's charts, will be highlighted during this transit. So it's an important transit. Other things about Jupiter transit in the 12th house is if you're more spiritual inclined or spiritual practitioners, you get deeper understanding in your spiritual process. You might realize a lot of things through your meditation, deep contemplation, or you can make progress in your spiritual development. It's easier for you to tap into your intuition as well, connect with your intuition. But if you are less spiritual inclined, Jupiter will still expand your interests or knowledge about spirituality, religion, symbolism, dream world, or imagination like music, art, and so on. 12th house also rules like traveling to distant lands, retreats, sanctuary, and escapism. And you might be inspired to travel to a faraway place, far away from your birthplace, an island or an exotic place. If it's not traveling, you might want to travel in books regarding fantasy, novels, reading more fantasy novels, philosophy, or reading or watching films that can stimulate your imagination or fulfilling your dream world. 12th house is associated with escapism. So there's a tendency to escape this reality. And it could be through traveling, reading, or daydreaming. So be careful with that because Jupiter has this very allowing, permissive energy. So you might allow yourself to escape reality too much. Like, for example, drug use, alcohol, or spending too much time in bed, too much time on unrealistic ideas, or too much time in video games, because some of the video games is also helping you to escape from this reality. So pay attention to that. Then Jupiter will move through from 12th house to first house. It's like a rebirthing. You ending something with the Jupiterian things, and then you come to the first house. Do more and learn more about first Jupiter. So Jupiter will enter into your first house from mid-May 2023 and will stay there for 1 year until 2024. So in the previous phase, like I said, We finish things that are related to Jupiter, fulfill your final desire regarding those things, and then you move on to the next cycle. And Jupiter transit in the first house is a very important transit. In Vedic astrology, whatever planets go through the first house and goes retrograde, it becomes extremely important. And when people have Jupiter transit in the first house, the major experience they're going to have is expansion. Expansion in your money situation, expansion in wisdom and happiness, because Jupiter is a significator of wealth, wisdom, and happiness. And the experience during this transit is not necessarily exclusive. It could be like in all three areas. And during this transit, Jupiter could bring opportunities to improve your money situation. Perhaps you start to make money for the first time, or you start to make more money with your business. There might be some positive developments in your money situation, because that's how Jupiter brings the expansion in your money situation. And when we do have some money, we have more freedom to do the things that we want, to explore, to create, perhaps taking more courses, learning new things, traveling to different places to see the world. The blessing on the money situation definitely gives you the freedom to expand your horizons, and you'll be more inspired to learn new things during this transit as well. Also, Jupiter will bring more opportunities to open you out to more opportunities, and you feel more positive and optimistic about your future, about your life path. But having said that, because Saturn transit in the 11th house is also looking at first house. So Saturn is also shooting the influence to the first house. So the blessings and also the luck that Jupiter brings will be reduced. And you might not feel you're the luckiest person in the world, but luck's still there because it's the angular house. Another manifestation that Jupiter can bring during this transit is that you could meet someone who has a profound impact on you, like a teacher or guru or an advisor, or it could be a book, it could be a video, it could be a talk, or someone who helps you to understand things or to help you to see things from a different perspective, open up your visions. So if you have embraced or met a guru during Jupiter transit in your 12th house from December to May, chances are the relationship with this teacher or with this guru can be a long-term relationship. Or if you happen to end a relationship with a teacher, a guru or something, or if you've been longing for a teacher, chances are when Jupiter transit in the first house, you might meet someone who is more suitable for your stage of life. And Jupiter rules our belief. When Jupiter transits the first house, it's always testing our belief about money, belief about happiness. And there might be some situations make you think deeply about the relationship between money and happiness. So yeah, when Jupiter transits the first house, it also brings some meaning and purpose and wisdom. Other things when Jupiter transits in the first house is it can increase your self-confidence, how you feel about yourself, how you envision your future. You become more positive and optimistic about the path that you're on. It brings inspirations about where you want to go, what you want to do, and who you like to become. You can receive more opportunities to direct you on the path that will bring you more happiness. When Jupiter transits in the first house, opportunities for new career might present itself. If you've been thinking to start some projects like business projects, creative projects, but having problems or difficulties, now is a good time. You will feel more confidence in what you're doing. And this is also a good time for business development. And during this transit, you might want to travel more to see the world. You might be inspired to, discover more different cultures. Okay, so that was the money and career for 12 signs. And thanks for watching. If you need the personal reading, check the link below, and then you can find the information to have your personal reading. And I wish you a year of abundance, happiness, laughter, wisdom, and guidance.